The lawyer cleared his throat, slid the paper across the table, and said the one sentence that changed everything. Your parents left you nothing. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard him. The air in the room felt thick, like someone had sucked all the oxygen out. I stared at the document, my name nowhere on the page except in one place, listed as a witness, not a beneficiary. Nothing. After 32 years of being their son, nothing. Across the table, my younger sister Claire shifted in her chair. She avoided my eyes, staring instead at the polished wood of the conference table. The lawyer continued in his careful, professional voice. The house, the savings accounts, the lake cabin, and the investment portfolio will be divided equally between Claire and Michael. Michael. My younger brother. I felt a strange hollow laugh rise in my chest. That's it? I asked. The lawyer nodded. That's what the will states. No explanation. No message. No letter. Just nothing. My parents had died 2 months earlier in a car accident on a rainy highway outside Seattle. A truck lost control, the police said. Instant. No suffering. Everyone kept telling me that part like it was supposed to help. Now I sat in a quiet legal office staring at proof that the last thing my parents ever did was erase me. Claire finally spoke. I'm sure there's some kind of mistake. But her voice sounded thin, like she didn't believe it either. Michael leaned back in his chair with his arms crossed. Dad knew what he was doing. The room went silent. I turned slowly toward him. What does that mean? He shrugged. You hadn't talked to them in years. That's not true, I said, though even as the words left my mouth I knew how weak they sounded. I'd talked to them. Just, not much. Life had gotten busy. Work. A divorce. Moving across the country. Phone calls became texts. Texts became holiday messages. But being busy didn't mean I stopped being their son. The lawyer closed the folder. If you have questions about the will, you can contest it, but legally speaking it's very clear. Contest it. Fight my own siblings for what my parents decided I didn't deserve. The idea made my stomach turn. I pushed my chair back and stood up. I'm good, I said. Claire looked up quickly. You're just going to walk away? What else am I supposed to do? Michael smirked slightly, like he'd expected that answer. I left the office without saying goodbye. Outside, the sky hung low and gray over the city. Rain dotted the pavement. People hurried past holding coffee cups and umbrellas, living normal lives while mine felt like it had just been quietly dismantled. I drove back to my apartment in silence. All the way home, one question echoed in my head. Why? My parents weren't cruel people. They weren't vindictive. They were the kind of people who remembered neighbors' birthdays and brought casseroles to funerals. So why would they cut me out completely? That night I dug through old photos stored on my phone. There we were 10 years earlier at the lake cabin. Dad grilling burgers. Mom laughing as Claire pushed Michael off the dock into the water. And me sitting on the steps holding a beer, smiling at the camera. We looked like a normal family. I tried to remember the last time things actually felt normal. Maybe it was before the divorce. Before Sarah left. Before the long nights at work trying to build a company that eventually collapsed anyway. Somewhere along the way, distance grew between me and my parents. Calls got shorter. Visits got rarer. But still. Nothing? 3 days passed before Claire called me. I almost didn't answer. "Hey," she said quietly. "Hey." A pause stretched between us. "I keep thinking about the will," she said. "Something feels wrong." I leaned back on the couch. "Michael doesn't seem to think so. Michael always thought Mom and Dad liked you best." That surprised me. Why would he think that? "You were the firstborn," she said. "Dad always bragged about you. Your college scholarship, your job in tech." I laughed bitterly. That was a long time ago. Claire hesitated. "Michael's been acting weird since the reading." "How weird?" "Like he's in a hurry to sell everything." "What do you mean?" "The house. The cabin. Dad's old truck. He wants to liquidate everything as soon as possible." That struck me as strange. Our parents had loved that lake cabin. It had been in the family for almost 40 years. "Did Mom or Dad ever say anything to you about the will?" I asked. "No," she said softly. Another pause. "Listen," Claire said finally. "I'm going to the house tomorrow to sort through their things. Do you want to come?" I stared at the dark TV screen across the room. Part of me didn't want to step inside that house again. Too many memories. Too many questions. But another part of me couldn't shake the feeling that something about all of this didn't add up. "Yeah," I said finally. "I'll come." The next afternoon we met in the driveway of the house we grew up in. The same white siding. The same maple tree in the front yard. But without my parents there, it felt like a stage set after the actors had gone home. Claire unlocked the door. The house smelled faintly like dust and old books. Everything was exactly the same. Mom's ceramic bowls on the kitchen counter. Dad's reading chair by the window. It was like time had frozen the moment they left. We spent hours sorting through boxes. Old tax returns. Holiday decorations. Photo albums. Mostly ordinary things. Until I opened the bottom drawer of Dad's desk. Inside was a thick manila envelope. My name was written on it in Dad's handwriting. Claire looked over my shoulder. "Open it," she said. My hands felt strangely unsteady as I slid my finger under the flap. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a small key. The paper read, "If you're reading this, then things went the way I was afraid they might. I'm sorry we had to do it this way. Trust no one. Not even family. Use the key. Dad." Claire frowned. "What does that mean?" I turned the key over in my hand. It was a safety deposit box key. And suddenly the will made a lot less sense, and a lot more. Because my parents hadn't forgotten me. They had hidden something. And somehow, I was the only one meant to find it. Claire looked at me with wide eyes. "What do we do now?" I folded the note carefully and slipped the key into my pocket. "We go to the bank," I said. But as we stepped out of the house, I noticed something that made my stomach tighten. Across the street, Michael's car was parked at the curb. And he was sitting inside it, watching us. Watching, like he already knew. The bank opened at 9 the next morning. Claire and I were waiting outside by 8:45. I kept turning the key over in my pocket. A safety deposit box. Something my parents hid. Something important enough that they wrote a secret note instead of putting it in the will. The doors opened. We went straight to the vault. The bank manager checked my ID, looked at the key, then disappeared for a few minutes before returning with a long metal box. He placed it on a small private table and left us alone. My heart pounded as I lifted the lid. Inside were 3 things. A flash drive, a stack of documents, and a sealed envelope. Claire whispered, "Open the envelope." I did. Inside was another letter from my father. This time longer. I read it slowly while Claire leaned in beside me. And halfway through, the blood drained from my face. Because the will wasn't punishment. It was protection. And the reason my parents left me nothing was because they believed someone in our family was dangerous. Someone willing to lie. Someone willing to steal. Someone willing to destroy everything they built. And according to the documents in that box, that someone was Michael. Claire looked at me in disbelief. This can't be real. But the bank statements, contracts, and emails told a different story. Over the past 2 years, Michael had secretly taken loans using our parents' property as collateral. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Risky investments. Some of them illegal. If our parents had left the estate normally, the creditors could have taken everything. So they did the only thing they could think of. They moved the real assets somewhere else. Somewhere Michael couldn't reach. And the flash drive contained the instructions. Claire sat back slowly. So the will was fake, I said quietly. Or at least, a distraction. She looked toward the vault door. Does Michael know? I thought about his car parked across the street yesterday. About the way he'd rushed to sell everything. About the smirk on his face in the lawyer's office. Yeah, I said. I think he does. And suddenly the real question wasn't why my parents left me out of the will. The real question was something much worse. How far was Michael willing to go to make sure I never found out the truth?